All right, the Reds are back. Huddersfield Town v Liverpool this Saturday at 5:30 p.m. We've had to wait for another international break to pass us by. Been boring, hasn't it? But we get to see the Reds again this Saturday. So this is the preview show. Gareth Roberts, Mo Stewart and Josh Sexton. We're going to have a bit of a chat, and it's got all the usual bits in it as well. So we went to Huddersfield, we spoke to a Huddersfield fan. That's to come. And there is the tactics section, as ever. Although this time not with Neil Atkinson, because he's away getting married and that. And that's nice, isn't it? So let's start with the Reds then. And the aim is to keep a clean sheet, obviously, against Huddersfield. And then that will be a club record. It will be 100 in the club's 126 years. They've never gone an opening 9 matches and only conceded 3. So that's a nice one to start with, isn't it? That'd be nice for them to get that record. And as Huddersfield can't hit a cow's arse with a banjo, you'd kind of think it's going to happen.
I mean, it's almost too good to be true.
Yeah, one of them. Tempting fate.
Yeah, we haven't conceded hardly any goals. They've hardly scored any. I mean, their scoring record, particularly at home since they come back in the Premier League, is dire. I think Harry Kane's still the top scorer at their stadium by like 2 goals. He's 2 goals clear of everybody else. Yeah. So in terms of what can Huddersfield threaten to us, there's not a lot there. In terms of what we can do to them, there is a lot there. So you're right. I think racking up these kind of records, putting that confidence in us and in our opponents that we can go away and just shut up shop defensively and then go off and let the top guys do their thing. It's great.
And it's another little test for Liverpool, isn't it, Josh? I mean, we don't know yet quite who will take to the pitch on Saturday. And obviously lots of fans are nervous about all the reports around injuries and stuff like that. But while I get that, it's kind of something you just have to deal with. This is top-level football. It happens in international football. It happens a lot to Liverpool and we all don't like it. Yeah. But if we're going to be at the top of the league at the end of the season, which is what we all want, you have to deal with this adversity, don't you, one way or another?
Absolutely, and it's the reason that we've built the squad that we have built. It's the reason that Klopp's gone out and bought all these amazing players and has spent so many years sort of slowly improving and building on this squad. But also, whatever combination of players we put out there are going to be better than the Huddersfield 11, probably 1 to 11 as well, you'd imagine with all the players we've got. We've got hundreds of millions of pounds worth of talent there. So yeah, like you say, whatever combination of players we do go with, it should be enough to see them off. And that's the thing, is there's so many players we've been excited about to see over the course of the season, and Huddersfield and the next few games in particular is going to be a chance to hopefully see some of them. So I think there's only reason to be excited, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just to run through, you probably all know this by now, but let's do it anyway. Mohamed Salah came back early from international duty with Egypt over a muscle problem, although it was interesting that Egypt were saying it was mainly precautionary. Just before we came down to record this, it's been put out there by Paul Joyce that he should be fine. Some of the other players as well, it appears that Van Dijk will again soldier on through this rib injury to play. Mane's expected to be fine too. And it's interesting that as we get closer and closer to the actual game, some of these ones that we were worried about are starting to already fade away, and it seems like they're going to be all right. And it also seems that Klopp's mate, David Wagner, knew that this would be the case, because when he was asked about all these injuries Liverpool had, he said, I have known Jurgen long enough. He loves to use smoke screens. I expect that most of his players will be available. I've known him long enough, and he likes to moan after an international break. I love all that. But I mean, it does seem that what looked like an absolute nightmare the other day isn't going to quite be the case when we go to R5 on Saturday.
No, it seems to be the case. And the thing that I like about it is that international managers seem to be in a rush to kind of placate us as a club. In other times, it's been the case of a bit of a battle between club and country, but it seems like most of them seem to be really keen to keep us on side, yeah. And that can only be a good thing for the future.
There was it seemed like there was a pre-agreed thing with Koeman and Klopp, didn't it, that he played the game against Germany, the big one, he scores in it, but then he doesn't play the game against Belgium and just comes back. And it's like, I wrote something on Van Dijk as well, and he said himself that during the season, there's going to be things that hurt, things that are giving you a bit of jib, but you've just got to get through it. Yeah. That's the way it is when you're pro at the top, and that's what you want to hear, isn't it? I mean, I think we've had players in the past, and let's not throw them under the bus, but we've had players down the years who you thought, a twisted sock and he's not playing this lad, whereas Van Dijk's just like, I want to play, I want to be a part of it. We've got something special and I'm going to be leading from the back.
I mean, especially when we talk about central defenders, that kind of reliability, that's been something that we've been discussing quite a lot over the last few seasons. So like you say, it's good to hear him I kind of expected that from him anyway. I think most people did. He's a big enough guy. I'm pretty sure he can take most things. The interesting thing is that Klopp's obviously is going to look to give him some rest over the next coming weeks.
Yeah.
The interesting thing will be to see which games he decides to do it and who he decides to replace him with.
I think it shows like the competition for place at the club as well, though, doesn't it? Because I think even players like Van Dijk, maybe less so, Van Dijk and Salah and the likes of them, but it shows that there's a very real threat of it. If you are out for long enough, then you'll lose your place. It's not certain that you're going to be able to keep your place. Lovren comes in against Man City and plays really well, and we all know how well Joe Gomez is playing. So he's probably worried that if them two have another good game against Huddersfield, then Klopp's going to be looking at Red Star or even the next Premier League game and going, well, I know you are our 75 million centre half and you're one of the best centre halves in the world, but these two lads are there on merit at the moment. So.
Okay, well, we did go to Huddersfield, as I say. Myself and Sam, the man you never see on this show because he's behind the camera. We went to Huddersfield. We spoke to a Huddersfield fan. We went and had a look at the ground. It's a good away. We went there last season. Some nice pubs in the town. Easy enough to get there and back as well. So what should you be doing? What can you expect? What do they think about us? All of that kind of stuff. Here's our little trip to Huddersfield.
Huddersfield, then the Reds, the home of rugby league where that game was invented. Also the birthplace of Harold Wilson, famously the MP for Huyton, and also, it turns out, Prime Minister of the country and that. But football-wise, we haven't been down here many times. We came here last season, won 3-0. Before that, there was an FA Cup game around 99. And before that, you look on 1972. When Liverpool were coming to Huddersfield to go have a game of football. They've been down the lower leagues for a long time, had some dark days, but once upon a time they were a great club. They won the league 3 times in a row before Liverpool, before Manchester United. But for younger fans, like a fan we're going to speak to shortly, these are the glory days for them. They're absolutely delighted to be in the Premier League. They're absolutely delighted with what David Wagner has done, Jurgen Klopp's mate, and they're just delighted to be playing clubs like Liverpool. So if you're coming to Huddersfield, it's only 60 miles or so on the motorway. It's an easy enough trip on the train. Where should you go for something to drink? Where should you go for something to eat? We asked the Huddersfield Town supporters to tell us all that, a little bit about their own club and what they think of us.
My name's Elliot Wheatbone. I run the Talk of the Town website, and I've been watching Huddersfield Town for about 15 years now. Well, I didn't expect to be in the Premier League for a start. It still feels very surreal. We were treading water in the Championship, and then David Wagner took over, and it's just been a blur really. Now we're in the Premier League. It still doesn't feel real in many ways. We beat Crystal Palace on the opening day of the season. It didn't really set in until we started playing some of the big boys, and then we had some issues, but yeah, the ambitions of the club, I think, is just to consolidate our position in the Premier League. Look at Burnley and Bournemouth as maybe some model clubs to try and aspire to be, and then after that, who knows. We've been in League 2, we were close to administration about 13 to 15 years ago. So, there's been very dark days, and I think that's very important for us to reflect on when considering now the relative success we've had. It's important to know where you've come from. I think that's what we as fans think about. We're quite humble but ambitious is a nice way to put it, I think, and that reflects the football club as well. As soon as David Wagner took over, he's infectionally enthusiastic. He's inclusive, and one of the most important things he's done is he's acknowledged that we're a hard-working, working class mill town, and he's reflected that on the pitch with a hard-working group of players who were committed to the team. And I think that brought a lot of people over, because before that, we'd had a lot of middle management, English merry-go-round managers, Chris Powell, Mark Robbins, etc. And then when David Wagner came in and introduced this new philosophy and this new ideology to the team and to the town, practically everyone bought into it almost immediately. And you saw that from season tickets, going up 200, 300%. So I don't even think it would have mattered if promotion had happened, because just the impact that he's had, it made a lot of fans fall back in love with football. So I think, I think everyone's riding that crest of momentum now, and there's a lot of happiness swirling around this place. There's plenty of pubs in and around the town, but if you wanted something more unique, there's quite a few microbreweries that have been popping up, so they'll be quite interesting if you're into ale. And a little hidden spot's Marston Chicken Shop. It's a bit out of the way, but fans and players rave about it, about being the best chicken in Huddersfield, so if you can get there before a match, then you'll be set.
All right then, so there you go. There's some stuff to do in Huddersfield. That's what they think, and that's what, let's see what happens when you all go down to Huddersfield. Enjoy yourselves. The Liverpool team then, lads. It was an interesting article in the Echo today saying 5 Liverpool players have appeared in all 11 games so far. A further 6 have featured 10 times. Manchester City have only used 1 player, Riyad Mahrez, in every match. So basically, last season we were talking all the time about how Klopp was rotating more than any other manager and all that sort of stuff. Seems this time around, because of that difficult run that we had and the level of the opposition, he didn't feel he could do it. Now, though, you kind of feel like he must surely, and some of it might be forced hand with some of those injuries we mentioned before. Ones we didn't mention as well, as Milner's still expected to miss out with a hamstring. Mane, the broken thumb, we think is going to be okay. Keita, it's not expected to be good news on him, so we don't expect him to be playing. But what do you think Liverpool can do and will do, both at Huddersfield and going forwards, really?
I mean, for me, the one that strikes me most is that in that top list of the 5 players who played in every games, the front 3 are all in there.
Yeah.
So you would expect over these coming games to see less of them, especially now when we've got these slight niggles around them. I think you're right, though. I think that the actual fixture list itself has kind of forced Klopp's hand in this respect. Yeah. And it was almost like he was hoping that he could kind of get to this stage, and now you're seeing these niggles start to build up. It's almost like, okay, I can hold it off no longer. So we probably are going to start to see some more. And you never know, maybe holding them back that little bit more kind of ramped up the desire. I'm thinking specifically someone like Shaqiri and maybe Fabinho as well.
Yeah.
Especially Fabinho, who got some good minutes for Brazil against Argentina in the recent midweek. So he's going to be in match fitness. He's going to be looking to go out and impose himself in the game. I feel like this is going to be a good game to bring him into, because Huddersfield are going to be weakened in midfield and are weak in midfield generally. So I can see this being a real chance for a lot of people to take their opportunity and really show what they can do in a red shirt.
And expect Trent to return, Josh. I mean, everyone sort of forgot a little bit that he got dropped against Manchester City, but you expect to see him back on the side?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the City game probably did sort of, you did want to see someone who's a bit more defensive, and I think we got that in Gomez. I know that Trent had his sort of breakout performance almost against Leroy Sané last year, but I think it was always going to be a bit of a different game this time round from the 2 mad games seen in the Champions League. And I think Trent was saying this week as well, or it might have actually just been today, about how much he's enjoying playing right back for Liverpool. And I think it shows when he plays how much he enjoys the attacking aspect of it, and that's going to be needed in this Huddersfield game is a bit of support from the flanks, because you do expect him to sit a bit deeper, so I think it's going to be necessary too.
Now, the next thing I want to talk to you is about, a little bit surprised by this, maybe a little bit of mischief making how they've managed the stats on this one, but anyway, I'm going to do it. People say I'm sometimes too positive and a bit of a cheerleader. So here we go then, negative people. You're going to get what you want. Jurgen Klopp's record via the bottom 3. He's only won 6 times in 19 games against teams that were in the bottom 3 at the time of playing the game. And Liverpool have won none of their last 6 away at teams in the relegation zone. Drawn 2, lost 4. The last one they won was the 6-0 against Aston Villa, February 2016. Surprised by that one?
I am surprised, because obviously when you think about us at our best over the course of the last 2 seasons, we've been scoring lots of goals, and they have been against some of the weak teams as well as the big ones. But when you think about teams specifically in the relegation zone, what I'd like to know, what the stats probably can't tell you, is how many of those teams have either just changed manager or on a caretaker manager. They've got a new manager bouncing, or basically whatever the problem was has been got rid of, and now they've got a little bit of freshness about them. I dare say that's the case for a couple of them. In fact, the Swansea game last season with Carlos Carvalhal. God, however you pronounce that guy's name. That was definitely the case, because I think it was only his 2nd game. So you've got to weigh up against that. The fact is, yes, they're in the bottom 3 at that point.
The big man at West Brom as well.
exactly.
He got them going, didn't he?
So there are all these other factors into it, but the fact remains is, like Josh said, our 11 up against their 11 should be enough. It seems like David Wagner has been quite kind to us in the past in terms of giving his old mate 3 points and not a lot of goals conceded. So he's hoping that one continues rather than this one.
Well, I mean, it kind of feels like it's a nice, not a nice one, but it is a nice one if you're the Daily Mail or something like that. Like, look, here's a reason to worry Liverpool fans and all that. But when you start to dig around Huddersfield and their stats, I mean, they just seem really bad. I mean, it says here, Huddersfield have a league low 20 shots on target in the Premier League this season so far, while only Man City with 16 have faced fewer shots on target than Liverpool, 21. So that kind of feels like our goal's not going to be threatened too much in the game. Other things about Huddersfield's poor record, basically, obviously targeting the first goal in a Premier League home match this season. I love this one. I'm made up with this one. Huddersfield are targeting their first goal in the Premier League home match this season at the 5th attempt. Only one Premier League team has failed to score in any of their first 5 home matches. Everton in 1998-99. Get in! And Huddersfield also have only scored 1 league goal at the John Smith Stadium since mid-February. Liverpool are unbeaten in 12 matches in all competitions against Huddersfield. It goes on and on. We obviously won both games 3-0 against them last season. And in general, everything sort of points towards us having a pretty good time against Huddersfield. I mean, what's mad, in history, they've actually beat us more than we've beaten them. But you're going back to like the 50s and all that, when they were obviously a great side. So yeah, the last few visits to the stadium, 3-0 last season. We played them in the FA Cup in 1999, won 2-0. After that, you're going back to the 70s when they were playing at a different ground. So we probably don't have to do that. The bookies as well make Huddersfield 11-1, Liverpool 3-1 on, 4-1 the draw. Can you see anything other than a Liverpool win here? I know we're tempting fate, but...
Absolutely not, to be honest. And I think you can do your own heading with all them stats, and you can look at, and like you say, me and you were digging into that sort of that bottom 3 record in the office, and I was saying, well, some of them games were when we were resting players towards the back end of last season with the Champions League in mind, and I'm sure some of them would have been with the Europa League in mind in Klopp's first season as well. So yeah, I think you can wind yourself up. But the one stat that I'm sort of thinking going into this game is that Huddersfield are yet to win a game, and Huddersfield are a side that haven't really improved that much since last season. We're a side who massively have, and we know that. So I can sort of only see it going one way.
I'd also say that there are injury doubts against arguably their 3 best players, Christopher Schindler, Philip Billing and Aaron Moy. And if any of those 3 are out, then that puts a massive hole in what they're capable of. If Moy's out, then that means they're even more likely to go in with a defensive strategy. Because I think even though they are at home, because they haven't won so much and because they've been so poor, I think their fans would be okay with the idea of them just trying to contain for at least the first half, maybe 50, 60 minutes. So we're probably going to need some patience. We're going to have most of the ball. As Josh mentioned earlier, the fullbacks are probably going to be really key in terms of putting that extra pressure on, and they're probably going to be the spare man a lot of the time. But, as I said before, we have the quality, we've got the patience, we should be able to get the job done.
Go on then, prediction.
3-0.
3-0 to Liverpool?
Yes.
I was going to go with 3-0 as well, to be honest.
OK, there you go. Well, let's hope it is 3-0 to Liverpool. That'll do very, very nicely. We're going to conclude today's show with the tactics section. What might Huddersfield do to try and stop Liverpool? This week, you've got John Gibbons talking about what Huddersfield might do.
It was interesting hearing from Jurgen Klopp just before the international break in his last press conference before then, talking about Liverpool's formation and the fact that we've been almost exclusively 4-3-3 this season. Only a couple of times last 5 minutes have we thrown that extra centre-half on, and the fact that he might be more willing to change going into these next few games. Last season, a couple of times, certainly away from home, we saw more of a 4-4-2 with two deep-lying defensive midfielders, 2 more attacking midfielders playing out wide, and then maybe 1 off 2. That is something we could see more of this season. What I would say is I think you really, to do that, you probably need Sadio Mane. I think he's our most natural width. And in terms of our speed, I don't think you'd want to be playing Mo Salah that deep at the moment. So one to watch out for in the next few weeks, but if Sadio is struggling with his form, then maybe not for this one. I think we're more likely to see a 4-3-3, quite a similar formation that we've seen in most of the games so far, and obviously with plenty of interchange. And with Huddersfield, it gets interesting as well because they've changed formation a lot. They've changed players a lot. It's only Tottenham have used more players than Huddersfield so far this season. Against Spurs, they played 3 at the back. They played 3 defenders. I moved these a little bit. They played 3 at the back, and they had some success with that. Really, they got beat 2-0, but it's 2 Harry Kane goals, one a penalty, and felt they were in the game. Felt they competed well. The problem they've got at Huddersfield is that Kongolo doesn't look like he's going to be available for this. He's a big player for them, record signing. So I expect them to go back to 4 with the absence of Kongolo, and then to maybe have 1 defensive midfielder, and then to pick 4 midfielders ahead of those. And then they've got Depayet up front. He's a big fella. He's someone who we've got to look out for. He hasn't scored huge amounts of goals this season, but he is physical. And Virgil van Dijk with his slightly tender ribs might have to watch out for him. So that might be one. And they'll just see how much they can get the ball up to him and how they can get these forwards around, these attacking midfielders around them. 4-1-4-1 is the formation I expect to see. It's not a formation I'm massively keen on, to be honest with you. I think it's too often the case is it turns into the 4-5-1. So these wide midfielders, are they able to get forward, or are they worrying about what's going on here, especially if Trent and Robbo end up pushing up? These 2 guys, are they able to get forward? You're looking at someone like a Mooney, are they able to get forward and support the attackers, or do they get dragged in? I think that's where the game will be won. If you're seeing lots of these midfielders forward, it shows that Huddersfield are doing something right. They're getting up to the big striker. He's able to hold it up. If Liverpool are seeing a lot of the ball, I think you'll see Huddersfield get deeper and deeper and deeper, and that's where we'll be able to do some damage around these areas. So, be interesting one to see. Interesting one to see if Huddersfield can get out. They're going to try and counter-attack, but I'm not sure they've quite got the pace, and so I think it's Liverpool game to win as long as they play well.